Good evening and welcome to Nashville. I'm Alan Jackson. I saw a quote and I thought it spoke to this incredible week. It goes like this: leadership is the capacity to translate vision into reality. Well, President Trump had the vision and the tenacity to make it come true. A remarkable peace for the people of Israel and the Mideast as a whole. A lot of smart people thought it could never happen, but they've learned what it means to doubt President Trump. The fighting has stopped. The weapons are no longer pointed at Israel. The 2025 peace plan is a breakthrough of global proportion. Well, Scott Brown was one of President Trump's ambassadors in his first term, and he's joining us now from New Hampshire. Welcome back, Scott.
Oh, Alan, it's great to be on. What a glorious week. I can't keep up.
That is the truth. You know, we hear from the president every week, but you've worked with him up close. Tell us what it's like from the inside to work for this man who doesn't seem to take no for an answer.
Well, actually, we hear from him more than once a week. We hear from him 3 or 4 or 5 times a day, which is incredible. And it's funny, we didn't hear from Joe Biden for sometimes, weeks and weeks on end. Obviously, he is unorthodox in some respects. And that unpredictability is something I think we've talked about a couple of times when I first started working with TBN, is that unpredictability, keeping people off balance, is one of his strengths. It's one of his assets, I believe. I mean, look what happened with Zelensky. Basically, when he first went in, he basically kicked him out. Or he has another world leader go through the back door. He's just keeping him off balance. And I thought and think what he's doing now, what he did obviously with Hamas, and just finally gave him a deadline. I think that deadline's coming for Putin as well. It's time to end the next war. And God bless him for doing it. And, we need to have that one end as well.
I'm sure you worked through some pretty tricky issues when you were ambassador, but negotiating in the Mideast must be the highest bar of all. A number of foreign leaders gave the president credit for getting this deal done. Listen to some of their remarks.
My thanks to President Trump for his leadership on this, to the Qataris, to Egypt and Turkey, who've done really important work in the negotiations. It is a relief to the world.
We're ready to provide all the help that is needed. I think the international community has to help him the maximum we can. So Italy is here to say we are ready.
The president appears to have created his own United Nations. How do you think he managed to get so many different countries pointed in the same direction?
Well, I think what was noticeably absent was the actual UN, which has done nothing. Quite frankly, I'm not quite sure why we keep supporting that organization and the capacity that we do. So that I think that spoke volumes that they weren't even there to be seen. I believe because everyone has skin in the game, especially in the Middle East. I've been to Afghanistan, Pakistan, Israel, Dubai, Jordan, Kazakhstan. I understand certainly, different parts of the world did trade deals as an ambassador to New Zealand, have negotiated. We were there during the Christchurch massacre. I think everyone in that region recognizes that this is a once in a lifetime, once in a 3,000-year opportunity to really have peace and stability in that region. And aren't they tired of war after war after war and the hate? It's not, they're not realizing, I believe, their full potential. Obviously they have natural resources that keep them going and give them money, but there's more to it than just that. They can be so much better and so much more. And I think that's what the message was received. What are you doing? And don't you want to be better and do better and really be a region in the world that people want to come to, and they want to be safe and they want you to thrive? Hopefully that message was received loud and clear.
Amen. In addition to the politics of this deal, the president always talks about his desire to stop the loss of life. He says it when he's in his commander-in-chief role, and he said it in the Gaza and Ukraine negotiations. Where do you think that emphasis on life is coming from for him?
Well, I think because his life was almost taken, not once, but twice, literally by that much. And he recognized that he felt that, God was giving him, basically, I'm paraphrasing, a second chance, a new opportunity on life to go and make a difference. I'm not going to disprove it or doubt him. I mean, that's his feelings. And I thank God he's touched by God and wants to do and be better, because I think the entire world will be better off with him here, as we're seeing by the leadership that he's exhibiting on a whole host of issues.
Well, let's move to the war in Ukraine. We heard from the First Lady on her letter to Putin. She's working to save the lives of children and reuniting them with their families. Listen to her comments.
Much has unfolded since President Putin received my letter last August. He responded in writing, signaling a willingness to engage with me directly and outlining details regarding the Ukrainian children residing in Russia. And since then, President Putin and I have had an open channel of communication regarding the welfare of these children.
You know, it's interesting to see both the First Lady and the son-in-law, Jared Kushner, taking such prominent roles in the search for peace on our globe. Could this be a new model for finding peace, a family affair?
Well, I think we've had other families, you know, the Kennedys, for example. I mean, that was really just stick out. We had Hillary trying to work on healthcare. That was a disaster. It really depends on the family, and it really depends on the circumstances. And, you know, Putin has had a chance, many chances to stop this war, and he keeps pushing and pushing and pushing, trying to gain that tactical advantage. You know, he released eight children. You know, there's tens of thousands that are still missing, and it's a gesture. I don't know if it's a placating gesture. I mean, every life is sacred, every person, every child is sacred. But if he really wants to do something meaningful, he could do it just like that. And I'm hopeful that the pressure is put on, and that would be the draconian sanctions that the president really need. I have said now for weeks he really should put on, obviously, President Putin.
You know, Putin's still pretty dug in. Do you think the president's on the right track by trying to cut off countries from buying Russian oil?
Yeah, I mean, that's what's supplying their war. That's what's funding their war, basically. You know, they're undercutting the world market and going to China and India and other countries, North Korea, that'll buy their oil. And they're doing it, and that's what's funding their war. So it makes sense, right? You cut that off, then the money goes off, and then you put in harder draconian sanctions. That'll have to bring them to the table. It's not like China where they have the rare earth mineral issue kind of dangling over our head, but we have many other levers as well. Their bargaining is really, I think, minimal in terms of trade, and they do have nuclear weapons, which is obviously a very big bargaining chip, and God forbid they use those. I wouldn't think they would over something like this, but once again, I'm not Putin, I'm not close to Putin. I think Steve Witkoff, who spoke to him for 5 hours, would have a better understanding of where his head's at.
Well, the president told Zelensky that he thinks Ukraine could get all the territory that Putin has captured back under Ukraine's control. Some militaries are not so sure. Do you think it's possible?
No, listening to this guy, anything's possible, you know, depending on what the levers are. I mean, I always thought that you offer Putin an opportunity to get back in the G8, make it the G8 again instead of the G7 when they were kicked out, you know, giving him some world credibility, you know, start doing, you know, some serious trade and other negotiations, releasing some of the sanctions and some of the monetary restrictions that the country has, you know, help them economically to kind of step back. The question is it going to be like Hamas or Iran, where they use that money to basically, you know, weaponize and then export terrorism and fear around the globe? That's the question, and the president would only have that answer.
Well, Scott, there's a lot more to discuss. Can you stay for another segment?
Sure.
Well, during the break, you can jump in on our conversation by going to ajnow.com and send us an email. We enjoy hearing from you. We'll be right back. We're back now with former Senator Scott Brown. You're working on getting back to Washington next year, and I understand you've already raised over $1 million to try to flip a Democratic New Hampshire Senate seat. But you've seen how Washington is working, or should I say not working right now. The Democrats have been pushed further left and are running on an anything but Trump agenda. The government shut down, and Chuck Schumer is dug in. What are you telling voters about what should be done?
Well, first of all, we raised $1.2 million in 90 days. That's a very big number, no matter how you look at it. We have over 750, probably another 100 coming out tomorrow. Endorsers, you know, people can go to scottbrown.com and help certainly and learn more. But one of the reasons I am running is because of that gridlock. I've always been a problem solver, somebody who basically, if it's a good idea, it's a good idea, regardless of who's sponsoring it. And, one of my first bills was the insider trading bill. I got it done when we only had 41 senators, and then I left, they weakened it, and now they want to do it again after Pelosi and others have made hundreds of millions of dollars. But yeah, the gridlock is something. Schumer is wrong. They should have. They knew that there was a sunset provision in the continuing, in the original continuing resolution. So these subsidies were eventually going to expire. They've known this, and this is the problem with DC. It's like they wait to the very, very last second. And I would say the Republicans should have known that this is going to happen. But Schumer should come back. They should work it out. It should go through the regular process. There is a question about a lot of the healthcare companies are now setting their rates. Well, I'm sure if it was a call from the president, they would postpone those rates for a little while so things could be worked out. That's what I would do if I was was advising the president. I'd say, sir, can you call these guys and tell them that to just hold off a little bit so we can actually get the government back open and then go through this process? Could you do that, please, sir? I'm sure he would do it. I don't know if anyone's asked, but Chuck Schumer is notorious for kowtowing to the left, especially now that AOC could very easily take his job. He got so much grief for it last time. He's not about to do it again. But it's Washington as usual. But my question to you and your viewers is, do you do nothing? Should I and others like me sit on the sideline and let them continuously do it wrong and badly, or should I and others get involved? And I've chosen to get involved, and I'm hopeful that I have that opportunity.
Good for you. Some Democrats are talking as if they assume they'll take back control of the House in the midterms. Is that a given among the people you talk to?
Well, it really depends. I mean, the whole redistricting thing certainly is taking place, but it's really about getting out the vote. You need to get out the vote, period. And if you have any doubt, you can't sit on your laurels. I mean, I'm working 15, 16 hours a day. And I leave here, I'm driving 2 hours going up north and probably meeting 30 or 40 people and driving back just to get those 20 or 30 voters, which could really, at times it by 4, it could be 120, 160 voters ultimately. That could be the election. So yeah, you need to work hard, certainly, and nothing's for granted. You and I have spoken many times. I was down 41 and won by 7 when I ran the first time and stopped the Democrat supermajority. So it's not over till it's over. But that's all the more reason with North Carolina, Michigan, Georgia, Kentucky, Ohio, and now Iowa in play. Little old New Hampshire, with our 600,000 voters that come out during the midterms, could determine who controls the Senate. That's how important it is, and that's another reason why I'm running. And if you want to help, once again, scottbrown.com. Sorry to plug it, but it's time.
Well, the president has made some bold moves with the economy, including the new tariffs. It's all designed to grow business and jobs in this country. But do you think enough of it will show progress by the time people vote next November?
Yes, I do. I actually just paid $2.38 a gallon with my BJ's, which is like Costco or one of those big savings companies or whatever. You just take your BJ's card and you go and you $2.38. Now that's huge. Obviously, beef prices are still high. I paid $2.67 for a dozen eggs. So there are a lot of positive signs. But yeah, the tariffs. This is something between China and the United States. The president knows what he's doing in this regard. I believe it because one of the things he wants done is this fentanyl to stop. And China's really not doing anything on that. They're also holding hostage the rare earth minerals issues, and then they're also, doing other things, for example, buying the Russian oil. So there's a reason why he's trying to tariff them to the table so we can actually, get something done. I believe it will be done, and it'll be a little bit messy, but they seem to respect each other. Two tough kind of bulls in the china shop kind of going at it. Men who are like that, they kind of respect the other person for that. I mean, President Trump said yesterday, he thought the Erdogan from Turkey was a good man who could help with Putin because he's tough and he's hard, and those things are needed sometimes when you're in those tough negotiations.
Well, the biggest issue at the polls last year was immigration and the crime that's come with the previously open border. And I know the illegal drug market was an even bigger issue in the Northeast. But how are things now, and has the president gotten credit for cracking down on crime and the drugs that come with it?
Well, we still have fentanyl coming through our northern border, and it still is going down to Lawrence and down in New York City, then being cut and shipped back up. And it's one of the reasons there's high tariffs with Canada. We want more help at the border so it doesn't happen. So if they're not going to just do it because it's the right thing to do, then you're going to have to force them to do it and hit them in the pocketbook. So I believe that's appropriate as well. So people are still concerned. They're appreciative of the fact that the president is getting the people who criminal illegals out of here. Some of the things that we see on the TV, it makes you think, okay, is there a better way to do it or not? I believe that ICE and the other entities are doing a good job in this regard because, once again, the question is, do you do nothing? Well, of course you do something because President Biden let in millions and millions of these people. And the thing that I'm mind-boggled about is that how do you have somebody who's in prison, they've been found guilty, they have a deportation order, and yet these governors and mayors are fighting to keep them in the prisons instead of saying, oh yeah, please get them out of here so I don't need to pay for them. It makes no sense. And then if you see what happened in D.C., the way that it just completely, almost overnight, turned around in other places as well, there's a reason for it. There's crime out there. And to think Chicago and California and other cities and towns and mayors and governors don't want help from the president, it's just mind-boggling.
Well, Scott Brown, thanks for coming back on again. Our viewers always enjoy your common sense ideas. Tell them again where they can get an update on your campaign.
Yeah, well, they can go to scottbrown.com. They can volunteer, donate. It matters. Every dollar, $1 is a bumper sticker. $5 actually pays for a sign. So anything you can do to help. Love you guys, and God bless you. God bless President Trump. God bless America. Let's keep this going.
Amen. Well, thank you, sir. And in a moment, some hopeful ideas for the days ahead. We'll be right back. There is no way that we could have had this victory in Israel and the Middle East without God's sovereign involvement. I'm grateful for the leadership of President Trump, and I'm grateful for the Prime Minister of Israel, for their work, for their courage. But there has to be the recognition of the hand of God regarding the developments in Israel. What's happened was impossible in the natural. It just couldn't be done, and yet it's been done. That alone should lead us to seek a deeper understanding. As Christians, we need a spiritual awareness to what's happening and to recognize that Israel does matter. I don't believe that you can understand the Bible if you don't have some insight and understanding into the role of Israel and the Jewish people. I think the most significant principle is that the Jewish people, the nation of Israel, are a chosen people, chosen by God. In the New Testament, the word Israel occurs 77 times. The word Jew occurs 75 times in the Old Testament and 188 times in the New Testament. Just as a matter of comparison, the term Christian, it appears 3 times in the New Testament. Well, that gives us some sense of the significance God attaches to the people and the nation of Israel. I want to suggest that you and I, on a daily basis, should be praying for the peace of Jerusalem, not an absence of conflict, but peace between the inhabitants of the land and the covenant people of God. It'll bring God's blessing to you, and it's a worthwhile investment of your time. If you'll do that, there's more reasons for hope than despair, I promise. Well, I'll be back with your emails in just a moment. Stay with us. Thank you for taking the time to send your emails. They are always a highlight for us on the program. Danica emailed, thank you for the reminder to have a weekly table discussions with our family. I noticed how COVID caused many relational separations. I really would like to have listened to you speak with Mr. Gordon Chang as well because he's extremely knowledgeable, and I always listen and appreciate what he has to say. Thank you so much for your program. Well, Danica, let me suggest you go to alanjackson.com, and there's a full menu of all the programs. You can see all the times that I've had the privilege of talking with Gordon. I believe I'm going to sit with him later in this week for a new episode, but alanjackson.com is a great resource. D. Matheson emailed, I turned on TBN this evening at the end of the program just in time to watch and listen to you speak with the Department of the VA Secretary Collins. It's such a blessing to listen to Secretary Collins' views and what he has to say for encouragement and to be supportive in the community. Well, I think it was an amazing report on what he's doing to help our veterans, His efforts are much needed. It's time that our veterans have the best health care in our nation. They've been neglected and overlooked for too long. It's a shameful episode in our history, and I'm grateful that it's changing. Sandy M. from Pennsylvania commented, I recently returned home from 2 days of an uplifting conference. Then I also attended Ronnie Simone's presentation on Israel. I'm most thankful for Ronnie's presentation, which enabled me to learn after many, many years what truthfully happened in the Middle East. Thank you. Well, Sandy, we were glad you could visit Tennessee. If you missed that Culture and Christianity conference, the entire conference is now available on YouTube. You can see it there. Truth is available. God is moving in the earth. We have evidence of that in the land of Israel this week. The hostages have been released. I hope you're celebrating. I am. Thank you for emails. They're always a highlight. I'm Alan Jackson, and I pray you have a wonderful evening.